Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Populous Podcast. I'm Chase,
I'm Charles.
and today we're joined by special guest Nabilah Islam, who is running for Georgia's 7th Congressional District. Thanks for coming on today.
Yeah, totally. Thanks for having me on today.
Right. So we're going to get right into the questions. You want to go ahead and tell us about yourself, why you're running, et cetera, et cetera?
Absolutely. So I'll start off with just giving you a quick breakdown of the district that I'm running in. The 7th district is where I grew up. It's my home. It was the closest federal election in the 2018 cycle where the Republican only won it by 433 votes. And now he's retiring. It's an open seat. And this district will flip blue with the right candidate. And it's comprised of two counties, Forsyth, Southeast Forsyth, and Gwinnett. Gwinnett makes up about 85% of the district, and it's actually the fourth most diverse county in the whole country. So growing up here, I grew up around so much diversity. And as a young kid, I was very inquisitive, and I was frustrated about the lack of diversity. Actually, there was no diversity, whether it came down to our mayors, our city council members, our state representatives, our congressperson. And because of the Republican leadership from the last 20 years, my district right now, it's about 17%, 135,000 people don't have access to a doctor. They can't afford health care. We actually have the highest deportations in the entire state of Georgia, the largest pretrial detention center in the entire country. And it's a very large, lot of diversity here. And after college, I decided to get involved in electoral politics. I'm the daughter of Bangladeshi immigrants, and I watched my parents work really hard, low wage jobs. My dad was a file clerk at the IRS, proud union member as well, and my mother's just worked multiple low wage jobs all my life. And this is a district that really deserves to have not just a Democrat, but a progressive Democrat who's going to be a champion for policies like Medicare for all, because healthcare is a human right, true immigration reform, giving a pathway to citizenship and making sure that there's actually justice in our criminal justice system, and also fighting for aggressive policies like a Green New Deal to combat the climate crisis that we're in. And so I am running for office to give my district a real voice at the table.
All right. Well, speaking of your district, the Cook Partisan Voting Index rates your district as a +9 red seat. So my question is, how do you plan to appeal to voters enough to overcome that very large deficit?
By running on policies that effectuate real change in our community. I believe that what we need to do is energize our base of Democrats here. This was a district that Stacey Abrams carried, so it's definitely a seat that will flip blue, like I mentioned, with the right candidate. And I've also believed that what we need to do is expand the electorate. So in Georgia, and I've talked about this a ton, and it happens around the country as well, is that people run to the right and they run on Republican like platforms. They're afraid of being 100% unapologetically themselves and doubling down on what they believe in. I believe that the way that we're going to win this is by exciting our base and expanding it. And I'm confident that we'll win the nomination, whether it's the primary or the primary runoff.
Okay, well, moving along, with the state of Georgia having the second lowest graduation rates in the South at 81%, how do you legislate this issue from a national perspective to get higher graduation rates, not only for Georgia, but also for the whole nation, and also boost post-secondary entrance rates?
So in Gwinnett County, we have a disparity of the funding of our different schools and different zip codes. And I believe that Congress should use its congressional budgeting powers to make sure that schools across the district in the 7th receive equal funding. And I feel like this has been an issue that I've been hearing from a lot of teachers, is that they don't have the resources. to succeed. And so I believe that all public dollars should go to public institutions instead of diverting them over to private institutions, so that we can increase your graduation rates, not just in Georgia, but across the country.
All right. So you touched on the diversity of your county a little bit earlier, and the exponentially high deportation rates. So, with the ongoing anti-immigrant narrative, how would you look to solve this issue on a national level?
Let me explain to you why we have such high deportations here. So in 2010, our sheriff, who I will go out and say that he's racist, voluntarily chose to implement 287G, which is a program that deputizes local sheriffs to do ICE's bidding. And what they can do is they issue detainers, and so that ICE can go ahead and like deport people. My plan is to go ahead and ban 287G at the federal level. We don't need ICE in our communities. In fact, I don't think we need ICE at all. And I also think that we need a real pathway to citizenship for the 11 million undocumented people in this country. My district, actually, Gwinnett County, has the most DACA recipients in the entire state. And these dreamers, came to this country. I went to a school with a lot of them. They're just as American as me, and they deserve a pathway to citizenship. And so those are some of the things that I would support in Congress.
All right. So moving on to climate change, you're running on a Green New Deal and re-entering the Paris Climate Accord. Your website makes it very clear that we're in a climate crisis, but many are skeptical that unilateral American action will make a difference. We have two countries, China and India, emitting more than us. How would you, in Congress, help get them on board with attacking the issue at hand?
So everyone looks to America as an example, and I really believe that we need to lead by example. And if we're not taking climate seriously, then countries like India and China are not going to take it seriously. And so that's why I think we need to be aggressive about the way we tackle the climate crisis and pursue a Green New Deal, and definitely move away from fossil fuels to a renewable energy economy. It's cleaner, it's more efficient, and we need to work with China and India as well to get them to also decrease their carbon emissions as well, because it's also harming their own communities. Clean air and clean water are huge issues, not just in America, but all across the country. So I think we need to work with our global partners in combating this collectively.
So, I'm going to move a little bit into your past record. And my question is, what was your biggest takeaway from your time overseeing the South for the DNC and your time working as the Deputy Southern States Finance Director for the Hillary campaign?
Yes. So I worked for Hillary in the last presidential cycle. I learned a lot, actually, in terms of, she failed to succeed. And what I took away from that was the campaign lacked a message that spoke to people, a vision that they felt like they could be a part of. They ran a very anti-Trump campaign, and I believe that you need to lead with your values first. And I love that progressive candidates in the presidential field are doing that, and that's why they've gained so much momentum. And now, when I was at the DNC, I was there for almost a year to help rebuild the National Party after we lost to Donald Trump. And their job was to, help fund the blue wave and state parties. And to be frank, I actually did not like working there, and that's why I quit. I think the party itself currently lacks a strategy in which it includes everybody. When I say everybody, I mean Black voters, Hispanic voters, South Asian voters, Muslim voters. I think there's usually what I've seen is people will take the path of least resistance. And what that means is, you're repeating the same playbook over and over again. And that doesn't work. I think in order to win all over the country and at the presidential level, you have to carry a message that speaks to everyone, where people feel seen where people feel like they're a part of something and not just, they're not just a checkbook or a vote that you try to get before election day.
All right. So my last question to you is, what more can be done that's not already being done for people with disabilities?
That's a great question. I would say take the healthcare approach, right? There are a lot of people with disabilities that don't have comprehensive healthcare. Maybe it's because they can't afford it, or it's because of our broken system. They're not able to access it. And so that's why I mentioned earlier that I will support single payer Medicare for all and making sure that healthcare is accessible to every single person in this country. And so that's what I think we should lead with.
All right. So I actually have two quick questions, real quick, before we end this off. My first one is about the FEC guidelines, which obviously you've had some issues with recently with petitioning them for your healthcare and such. So I'd just like to give you a moment to speak on that and give your thoughts on it as a whole.
Yes. So I am a working class candidate. It is a full time job in of itself to run for office. When I first started in this endeavor, I figured that I'd be able to get a part time job. And I quickly realized that that could not be a reality because in order to run and give my district the attention it deserves, I had to do this pretty much 24/7. And so I've actually put my student loans in forbearance, and I had a healthcare plan that wasn't ACA compliant, which means it really didn't do much for me. If I went canvassing and got hit by a car, it wouldn't have covered my ambulance or my hospitalization. So I did away with that and currently do not have health insurance. And what I'm asking the FEC for the first time in history is to allow working class candidates to be able to use campaign funds in order to pay for their health care. I've been running since February, and candidates are not allowed to take a salary until they qualify, and my qualifying period isn't until this year, March. So for a lot of candidates like myself, you're foregoing the ability to pay for things like healthcare or childcare. And I'm asking the FEC to give me permission to use campaign funds from the get-go because it explicitly does not say if I can. And I think this would open the door for so many candidates around the country where running for office is cost prohibitive, but it would take away one structural barrier at the very least. I saw that when I started talking about it on Twitter, Tiffany Caban tweeted at me and she said, she almost didn't run basically because of between her student loans and her health care. And I think that we need to take away as many structural barriers as we can so that working class candidates can run for office. And one thing I'll add is, right now, 40% of Congress is millionaires, and the average net worth of a congressperson is $500,000. But that's not reflective of America today. And so I'm hoping that the FEC rules in my favor and makes it easier for everyone.
All right. Well, I'll just finish this out with one last question. It's one that we like to ask every candidate we have on the show. With a dwindling 2020 Democratic presidential field, is there any one candidate who stands out to you?
There is one candidate that does stand out to me.
Are you willing to share that, or?
Not yet. I will very soon, though.
All right. Well, would you like to give a closing statement? Anything you want to talk to the audience about?
Yes, of course. I will say, if you're out there listening to this and you've thought about running for office before and you thought you weren't electable or your message wasn't going to be electable, I want to say run for office. We need more progressives all across the country, more diversity. And if you want to learn more about my campaign or volunteer remotely, or if you live here, you can go to nabilahforcongress.com. That's NABILAHFOR Congress. And then my Twitter handle is also Nabilah for Georgia07, and the same for Instagram as well.
All right. Well, that's all we have for you guys today. If you'd like to support Nabilah's campaign, please share this video and check out her website and all her social medias. All the links will be in the bio. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.